everyone, I'm currently on my way to Los Angeles to collaborate with Julian's Auctions again. They are going to be auctioning off the rental gear that Nirvana used on November 25th, 1991 when they did a radio session in the Netherlands. I'm so honored that Julian's Auctions reached out to me again, and I just can't wait to get there and to see all the gear and to work with them again. So let's go.
If you've been following my channel, then you'll remember when I first worked with Julian's Auctions back in October of 2023, when they invited me out to Austin, Texas to document and make a visual record for Kurt Cobain's actual Skystang 1. Not only did I get to hold and play what is legitimately my favorite guitar of all time, I met Nirvana guitar tech Ernie Bailey, Kurt's brother Chad Cobain, and the three of us went backstage at Austin City Limits to see the Foo Fighters headline that night. It was a pretty monumental and life-changing day to say the least. So when Julian's hit me up again earlier this year, asking if I'd want to come out to Los Angeles to get some footage of Nirvana items they're going to be auctioning off, I could not have said yes any faster. Julian's Auctions is the premier and #1 auction house for not just rock and roll memorabilia, but for entertainment and pop culture memorabilia just in general. No other auction house in the world gets even remotely close to Julian. This year, on May 30th and May 31st, 2025, as a part of their Music Icons event, they'll be auctioning off several pieces of awesome Nirvana memorabilia at the Hard Rock Cafe in New York. Just a few of those Nirvana items include a Boss DS-2 that Kurt used live on stage in 1992, and essentially all the rental gear that Nirvana used on November 25th, 1991 in the Netherlands for an acoustic in-studio radio session. I'm honored to say that we'll be checking out all those pieces of gear that I just mentioned. And this video is part 1 of that adventure where we will be specifically focusing on Kurt Cobain's Boss DS-2. And yes, we will be playing through it and hearing it in action for several Nirvana songs. Upon arriving in Los Angeles, I got a tour of the Julian's Auctions headquarters, and let me say, guys, it was quite frankly breathtaking. Their facility is packed to the brim with every form of entertainment memorabilia that you could possibly imagine. While being shown around, I felt like I was playing a giant game of pop culture I Spy, never knowing whose name I was going to see on what item. I've got to give a huge, tremendous shout out to Cody from Julian's Auctions. He's the one that I originally worked with back in Austin when it came to Skystang 1, and he's the one who reached out to me this year and arranged for me to be in LA. I will never, ever be able to thank you enough, Cody. The trust and faith that you have put in me with these historical items has seriously been life-changing on multiple levels. While on the facility tour, I met Julian's guitar expert extraordinaire, Mike Adams. I know you guys are going to recognize him because before he joined the team over at Julian's, he created some of the absolute best guitar content here on YouTube as Pusheen. I've been an avid follower and watcher for years, so it was truly an honor to meet Mike in person. I've always thought that Mike had a warm and infectiously fun personality through his videos, and I can tell you that that 100% translates into meeting Mike in real life. One of the kindest and most genuine people I have ever met. As fellow guitar nerds and content creators, we related on so many levels and had some amazing conversations. I am so thankful to have met and worked with Mike that day, and I truly hope it doesn't take too long for our paths to cross again. So now on to the main event. After the tour, Mike, simply put, just brought me the stuff. In front of me was Kurt Cobain's actual Boss DS-2, what I like to refer to as the Horrified bass that was played by both Chris and Kurt, the Trace Elliott bass amp that bass was played through, and the small drum set that Dave Grohl played at that radio session. But for now, we're going to be talking about Kurt's actual DS-2. Easily, the pedals that Kurt Cobain is most associated with would be the Boss DS-1, the DS-2, and Electro Harmonix small clone. I would argue that what the general public views as Kurt Cobain's live distorted sound is the Boss DS-2. Kurt is first seen with a Boss DS-2 on September 28th, 1991, and it never leaves his setup after that. He went through many different units, but from then on, the Boss DS-2 never left his feet. That pedal is responsible for the ferocious and in-your-face distorted sound that we hear on Live at the Paramount, Ready 92, Paradiso, Del Mar, Saturday Night Live 1992, MTV VMAs 1992, and even The Man Who Sold the World on MTV Unplugged. Steve Albini, the genius audio engineer and producer that recorded In Utero, is on record saying that Kurt used a Boss DS-2 on the album. The specific unit that Julian's is offering comes directly from John Duncan, affectionately referred to as Big John. He was a Nirvana guitar tech that went on the road with the band for several tours, notably including Europe in the summer of 1992 and the entirety of the In Utero tour throughout 1993 and early 1994. With a serial number of 883366, this makes this a 1988 DS2, but just from looking at it, you would never guess that it's nearly 49 years old. It's in basically perfect condition, aside from the wear here on top and the sticker showing some peeling. Past staged used distortion pedals that Julian's has sold has gone from anywhere from $9,000 to a whopping $75,000. This signed DS1 that was sold in 2022 is currently the most expensive guitar pedal ever sold, even beating out Jimi Hendrix's Octavia. So it is not hard to imagine that this DS2, the distortion model that Kurt's live sound is arguably most associated with, will go for many thousands of dollars and potentially break more records. At Julian's headquarters, Mike was nice enough to let me borrow his stunningly beautiful American Pro 2 Jazzmaster in dark night finish with a Seymour Duncan 59 Trembucker. He set up a gnarly PV head through a Mesa cab for me, and I did something I never thought I would ever be able to say. I played through Kurt Cobain's actual distortion pedal. It's impossible to know exactly which shows or which songs Kurt used this pedal for, since he is known to have gone through several DS1 and DS2 units throughout his career. But just from us knowing that it's coming directly from Big John and that it was used in 1992, I feel very comfortable guessing that it might have been used in Europe that summer. So we can speculate that Kurt maybe played his Jaguar or VMA Strat, his Telecaster through this pedal, or all of the above. It's honestly anyone's guess, but at the end of the day, this is a pedal Kurt Cobain used on stage. One of my favorite videos here on YouTube is Graham Nash at the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, reacting to holding and playing Buddy Holly's actual acoustic guitar. In that video, he says this amazing quote that has always stuck with me.
You know, I think part of the process of this whole thing is to get as close to the flame as you can get without being burned. I'm very close to the flame right now. This is Buddy Holly's guitar on which he wrote most of his famous songs. I mean, Buddy's hands are... I'm tripping out here, I'm sorry.
He captured it so beautifully in that quote. When you're a fan of a musician or a band that has written music that has become the soundtrack of your life, you want to do everything you can to get as close to that music as possible. I think for most people, that means going to see that band live and hearing those songs that changed your life in person. But there are so many artists out there that we cannot do that for, but that desire to get as close to the fire as possible still exists within us. That's a feeling I've been chasing ever since I started my channel here with my guitar builds and tone recreations. It's one thing to have my Boss DS-2 here at home and to recreate Kurt's sound using it, but let me tell you guys, to be playing those songs through a pedal that Kurt Cobain himself actually used, it's surreal, it's indescribable, it's a full circle moment on so many levels, absolutely mind-blowing, and it's thanks to all of you guys, the supportive community out there. All these crazy things have been happening because of every single viewer, every single subscriber, everyone who's ever commented. So my hope is that when you're watching a video like this is that you feel like you're there with me, experiencing the magic of this, because this is as close to the fire as we can get. We can't watch Kurt Cobain perform live, we can't meet him or thank him in person for the music he wrote, but being able to see the actual equipment, the actual guitars and pedals and gear that he used to create this music with, that's the flame right there. We're getting as close as we can, and we might be getting burned in the process, but who cares? It's worth it. I will never ever be able to thank Julian's Auctions enough for this surreal experience and for everything they have done for me. You guys go above and beyond. You're absolutely amazing, and I'm so thankful, so honored that I get the opportunity to work with the best auction house in the world. To me personally, live Nirvana always beats studio Nirvana. This might be a surprise to you guys, but I don't listen to the studio albums that often. I always go to live shows. I've always much preferred the sound and the gear that the band chose to use on stage to bring their songs to the masses. So this right here was truly a Nirvana gearhead dream come true. Here's another thing I never thought I'd ever say. These are the settings I used on Kurt Cobain's pedal. If you want to learn more about this magnificent and historic pedal, I will link its listing here and in the video description. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. That's what I've got for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, where we will be taking a detailed look at the gear that was used at that November 1991 radio session and hearing that funky Warwick bass and Trace Elliott amp that both Chris and Kurt used. Thank you so much for watching, and an extra special shout out to my Patreon supporters. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nirvana Guitars, and subscribe right here on YouTube so you don't miss part 2, and check out my other Nirvana gear videos in the meantime.
Really excited to go check it out. We'll try to go.